And now, coming to you live from atop the Lavender Town Radio Tower, it's the one, the only PUCL Podcast!
It's PUCL! PUCL! It's PUCL! PUCL! Pokemon Underground Champions League, oh yeah! PUCL! Grab your friends, it's that time again! Listen to the show where the fun never ends! It's PUCL! PUCL! Oh yeah! PUCL! Thatch and your co-host, whoever you have, it's PUCL! PUCL! Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah! PUCL! PUCL!
And welcome to the PUCL Podcast. I am your host, Trainer Thatch, here today with my excellent co-hosts,
Professor Snag
and Lynian, but on the podcast now.
Yeah, I should honestly say last minute co-host. I think that's the word. Because today has been a whirlwind of people supposedly being on the show, and it was neither of you that were scheduled this week. It's just been a happenstance after happenstance. But thank you both for being here. This is the 342nd episode of the PUCL Podcast. PUCL, of course, standing for the Pokemon Underground Champions League, a nonsensical name that was first founded in 1935 when an alcoholic took his last drink and founded Alcoholics Anonymous, or AA. It was a prototype name. Obviously, they switched it later on, but we stole it for ourselves, and now we use it for our awesome podcast and community all about Pokemon. Speaking of that, we talk about everything from the video game to the trading card game, and even the Pokemon Rebirth manga. We don't actually talk about that, but it's, man, that's digging deep. Lynian told me about that. Lynian told me about that the other day, and he said you should use that at the beginning of the show. I'm like, wait, have you not heard about that before? He's like, well, I just watched the Jay Witts video about it. I'm like, I forgot that's like 3 or 4 years old now. That's absurdly old.
And that's just the video. The more you look into Rebirth, the weirder it is. The most normal thing about it is that they battle by fusing Pokemon.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting stranger.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's weird. Yeah.
It's one of the weirder things, and we just talked about it. So there you guys go. We have our Pokemon Rebirth discussion right there at the beginning of our show today. But as we start off every show, I want to ask you guys, how's everything been? What you been up to?
Yeah. Oh, life has been busy. It's good. Of course, there's the new Snagger in the household. He's doing good. He's a fun little guy. Let's see here. What else? I have to give a shout out to Dr. Audino because she's part of what allowed me to be here in the very last minute. So she has to get a shout out not only for that, but also she was amazing. This week we found on Facebook Marketplace, remember those old Burger King gold Pokemon cards?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found some of those on Facebook Marketplace and was like, hey, check this out. This is a pretty good price for these. And it wasn't until she was on the way to pick them up that she told me that she was picking them up. And so I have a full... I know. I have a full set plus one of those, and they're just amazing, and my wife is the best.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, that's a good find.
Yeah.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're not super expensive either, but they're just like one of those cool Pokemon things to have.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on what kind of condition you find them in, because I was looking on like eBay and Amazon, and like they're going for $20 to $50 a pop, but those are probably in better condition than the... Yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe it comes with the box or something.
I say I do have one with the box. These all have like the certificate of authenticity. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
but
I do remember those. I think I have like 3.
Other than that, I mean, as anyone else who's in Draft League, I've been working on Draft League. And actually I had my match against Fact Luigi, who up until last night had only 1 loss under his belt, and I gave him his second.
Well, that's congratulations on that. I know he was a real contender in season 1.
And he still is. He's really good, and it was a tough match to prepare for, but yeah, it worked out well.
Awesome. That's really good. What about you, Lynian? Well, this is the first time on the show. Let people know who you are if they haven't listened to anything else before.
If my name isn't familiar, that means you're not on the Discord where I haunt. I've been listening to PUCL for a while. I was the Game Corner, what are we calling it, champion of the tournament at the end. I don't know.
Season 1 champion.
Season 1 champion of Game Corner. I've been doing Draft League. I'm one of the gym leaders. And this week has been real weird.
Yeah, that's good.
It's good weird, but also weird. In like less than 48 hours, I ended up getting and starting a job that, without getting too into it, involves basically a lot of paperwork and an inordinate amount of truckers. But it's been interesting. I've been doing a lot of well, I can't really talk about that, but a lot of prep work for an interesting project. So I can say at this junction, and just PDL hell, grinding up to the end, trying to take second in the division.
Well, have fun with that. As for myself, I started playing Pokemon Quest because I'm a trend follower. I'm not a trend setter, and I saw everybody else was playing it, so I was just like, let's give this thing a whirl. And it's not too bad. It's definitely addicting as like a game to just want to progress. And if you're trying to do it full on freemium, it's pretty difficult, which I'm trying to do because I do not want to spend $30 on this game. I do not think it is worth $30. I can't bring myself to be like, man, $30 for Pokemon Quest so that I can get 4 cooking pots at the same time. I can't even get enough ingredients for 1 cooking pot at a time. And they want me to go ahead and get 4 cooking pots so that I can go cook for myself and get all the Pokemon, which just isn't possible. It's not feasible.
Snag Arena started that yesterday as well. She played through it. I really didn't give it much attention myself, but
yeah, I only did it because my wife picked it up and she started playing it for a little bit, and it looked decent from what she was playing. I'm like, okay, this was a cute little game. It's definitely something that I would claim as like a quote unquote mobile game.
Yeah, and it is going to be coming to mobile.
I'm waiting for it to come to mobile. I played it for, I don't even know, a while. I got to like where you get 3 options of places to go. I got most of the way through that, but it is difficult to just grab my Switch every couple hours and
yeah, that's the problem.
Use up the energy.
It's not a big deal for Switch. I feel like this was more of we are working on Switch, have this game for like 3 weeks early because it should be here by the end of the month, they said. We're going to get Pokemon Quest on smartphones by the end of the month, and it'll all be fantastic and nice and good. So we'll see, though.
Yeah, and if you have a Switch but haven't started it, I would recommend just waiting for a mobile port. It's not a bad game. I was enjoying it. It was fun, if a little bit mindless. But, you know...
Oh, it's definitely mindless.
Yeah, I put that on autoplay and didn't take it off, and I was still doing fine. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think you're just going to have more fun on your cell phone. It doesn't take advantage of the Switch's other features.
No, exactly. I think it's definitely a smartphone game that they just put on the Switch. Which, honestly, I would like to say that this is the first time the Switch has done this, but it isn't. A lot of smartphone developers put games on the Switch just to try to sell them on a different platform. And, it works. It happens. I wouldn't say it doesn't. So... I'm interested to see where it goes. I like the fact that they were just like, hey, by the way, we are working on the Switch. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more today because I do think there's implications for what's going on. We talked a lot about what the announcements last week said, but I do want to talk about the impact that Pokemon Go is obviously showing on the Pokemon world, which we were going to talk about today. So stick around for the topic. But first, we got to go to the news and talk some quiz with your co-host. So we're going to kick it on over to PUCL's the news segment. So let's cue that epic music.
Coming to you live from the Lavender Town Radio Tower. This just in.
And on to the news. In the news, we have a few things. A lot of things actually happened this week. I was really surprised by the lack of things happening after an announcement in the Pokemon world, because that typically doesn't happen. So first of all, if you guys are unfamiliar, the Speed Gamers are going through and doing their annual event where they try to catch every single Pokemon in a set amount of time. I believe they're trying to do it over 6 days this year, from the 9th to the 15th of June. They're going to attempt to catch all 807 Pokemon. Well, not 7. I guess it's technically 6 right now. 806 Pokemon, and put them all on one Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon cartridge at the end of it. But they do this. They're raising money for St. Jude's. So if you're interested in doing that, check out the Speed Gamers. It's speedgamers.tv or something like that. You can check them out. It's always awesome because they've been doing this for like 10 years now. And every year, it's just amazing that you see this kind of stream happen. They were doing it before Twitch. I remember watching the first one. It's always a good time, though, if you want to watch some people just play Pokemon and talk some Pokemon for literally 7 days.
I've seen some of those in the past. It's pretty interesting, pretty cool that they do it.
Yeah, no, I'm all for any Twitch stream or video game stream that's all about donating money. So I will hype things up, especially if it's Pokemon-wise. So if you want to keep playing Pokemon Go, they're having a water event now for 2 weeks. It's a really long event. It's going until June 21st. You can go and catch all the water types in Pokemon Go. Kyogre returns to raids along with Shiny Kyogre, as well as Shiny Shelder, which I think is just like, hey, let's just like throw one in there. And everybody's like, okay.
It's basically what they do each event. They throw in a couple new shinies here and there. And of course, there's like the other ones that have been around. You got your Love Disc, your Magikarp, your Whalmer, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you guys appreciate how much of a lifesaver a water event is. I live in a place that gets either horrible snowstorms all winter and then doesn't drop below 95 in the summer.
Perfect.
There's not rain, and there's no like lakes to go around and find water types at. This has been amazing for filling out my decks.
Well, that's good. They made it for you. I think they do this like once every 2 years now. They're just rotating events and go. And because, well, I guess it's not every year. It's probably, or every 2 years. It's probably every year and a half they're doing this because we did have a water type event. We did have an adventure week just like we had previously.
Adventure Week happened at about the same time. It was maybe just a little bit later this year, but it happened at about the same time.
I agree with that. And so they were starting to repeat events, which is okay, I guess. I would really like to see something cool like I don't know, like a steel type event. I would be down for a steel type event. We haven't had one of those. To be fair, until recently, there weren't a lot of steel type Pokemon in the game.
And there still aren't a lot of steel type Pokemon in the game.
Not until next gen.
And a lot of the steel types at this point aren't basics either, like things you just find out in the grass. It's like your Caesars, your Steelixes, your Foratrices.
Yeah, but I mean, you also got like your Skarmory and your Beldum. People would probably appreciate it to get the Beldum.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised though if Beldum's the next Community Day Pokemon in Pogo. Like
either
like
Beldum
August
or
like August. I can see Bagon.
Yeah.
I can see Bagon, but they're doing like all the 10k eggs. It's like a starter cycled with a 10k egg right now.
Yep.
I'm assuming that we're going to get, in August, we're going to get Beldum or Bagon or something from Gen 3, because I think they hit the two big ones from Gen 2, which are Mareep and Larvitar. So I feel like Beldum and Bagon are next on the list. I could be wrong. Just let that
Beldum has a better shiny.
Yes, I agree with that. They have much more marketable shiny after we're going to have shiny Larvitar, which doesn't look much different this month. By the way, Community Day, for all of you who don't know, is next weekend. So definitely check that out. On June 15th, 2 p.m. Eastern. Go. Be there. Be square, man. All right. Also, so there's this fun thing that's happening. Speaking of Pokemon Go, there's going to be new Pokemon Go gyms from these vending machines they're putting in Japan, which just distribute PokemonCenter.com items or Pokemon Center items in Japan because they don't have to go to the website. They have like 20 physical stores. So these are coming out. It's really interesting. I hope we see them move to the West. We probably won't. I'm going to say we probably won't whatsoever. Yes. We did have one. We did have one vending machine in Seattle, though, to be fair. And I think it's still there. Jushiro can confirm it or deny it for me. I've made a pilgrimage to it myself. It's not that great. But anything in the US that gets me closer to a real Pokemon Center experience, I'm all about it.
So is it anything like Walmart's where it's just like piles and piles of Wobbuffet plushes?
No. It's actually got like a distributed screen. It's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. because we don't have too many vending machines in the US that distribute things that aren't like potato chips and soda. So it's really different when it's just like, oh yes, I will purchase this $20 plush out of this vending machine. It's very difficult to explain. Other things that happened, I didn't even realize this happened until I was prepping for the show today, but they announced all of the regionals for North America for the 2018-2019 season of Pokemon, Play Pokemon. And there's some really weird implications that are happening with it, which I would like to just mention and discuss a little bit. So I'm going to quickly list off, I think there's like 15 or 16 of these, or 14, that's what I'm listing, of these. So we're just going to go real fast. If I say your hometown, just deal with it and don't get super excited. So September 14th to 16th, Philadelphia. October 6th to 7th, Memphis. October 26th to 28th, Portland. November 24th to 25th, Roanoke. December 15th and 16th, Anaheim. January 19th and 20th, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. I say the airport because it is specifically in the airport. They have a hotel attached to it, and you can literally just sit in Dallas-Fort Worth and not actually go anywhere. You just fly in and you stay at the hotel there and you go play Pokemon. February 22nd and 24th, Collinsville, Illinois / what is known as St. Louis. It's just on the other side of the river.
Not the 23rd, though?
Not the 20. Well, it's the 22nd to the 24th. They always book these for 3 days just in case there's overflow, because the TCG side actually gets pretty heavy sometimes. You'll get a good number of competitors. But this is the year in the cycle of a generation where you're going to see a nice decline in the number of people coming to play competitive Pokemon, because you're just going to see Mega Ray and Ultra Necrozma everywhere. So you're just going to see them everywhere. It's just going to be what happens. So March 9th and 10th near Toronto. It's not actually in Toronto. There's like near Toronto. Then you have March 16th and 17th in Greensboro, North Carolina. April 6th and 7th in Denver. However, it is only for the TCG, not for the VGC. Only a TCG regional, which is interesting, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. April 19th and 21st at Daytona Beach. May 4th and 5th in Hartford, Connecticut. May 18th and 19th in Santa Clara, California. And June 1st and 2nd in Madison, Wisconsin. So the one thing that I want to take away from this is, one, I think it's really hilarious because Fort Wayne, Indiana has been kind of a staple for Pokemon regionals for years. And they finally kind of given Indiana the boot because they had like a whole controversy with Indiana a few years back. And Nationals last year was in Indiana. And I feel like the fact that we had Fort Wayne this past year was kind of just like a vestige of Pokemon wanting to deal with Indiana. But I've heard rumors that Pokemon, the company, doesn't want to deal with the state of Indiana anymore. So that's a fun fact. We can discuss it later. I don't want to get into too many political issues, but
yeah,
I know exactly why. The other thing that I think is super interesting is that there is a TCG only regional. And I think this has... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it's the only one within 10 hours of where I am, which is horrifying.
Well, the reason that it's interesting is because you've seen the trading card game actually pick up a lot of steam. A lot of more people are showing up to the trading card events, while you've seen the VGC grow stagnant. And I wonder if this is a shift for Nintendo to kind of they're kind of pushing VGC more to the side, in my opinion, in this case. Which I could definitely see them doing, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of money that they're gaining from the VGC tournaments or anything. They're kind of just doing them because, hey, you can do it while this TCG tournament's going on. Though people like us get really excited about it.
I think part of it comes down to the fact that if you want to play competitive Pokemon, so to speak, like you want to play VGC, or if you want to play things like that, there's always an option. If I have a 3DS and a bad Wi-Fi connection, I can still play basically whatever I want. I can ladder. There's not necessarily tournaments unless there's a local organization outside of these kinds of regionals. But
that's part of it.
If you want to play card games, like you have to go to these events.
No, I agree with you to an extent.
Oh, not only that, it's like if you just think about it from a company and money perspective, you buy the video game once, and that's all you have to do. So we're good for probably the next year, just with the Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon ones, and we don't have to buy anything else. For the TCG, every 3 months a new set has come out, and so they have to buy new things. They have to stay current, and so they're always selling product. And so it makes sense for them to push the TCG more because it makes them more money.
I wonder if we'll see something like the video game championships start to become just kind of a sideshow compared to the TCG tournaments. I mean, they kind of already are, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it.
Snags kind of makes a good point, but what kind of interests me now is maybe that means that Gen 8's going to have a bigger push towards that VGC because it's on a new console. It's on a new. It's gonna look a lot better. It's gonna stream out a lot better.
I want to counter your argument by just saying the same thing happened back in 2013 when we got X and Y. And you could expect that, but I feel like if you look at the investment, so an average TCG player, if they want to build a good deck in rotation or get the updated cards, they're going to spend, let's say $100 per set. That's $400 a year, right? And if you're a VGC player trying to get in as a business perspective, you are looking at, even if it is the Switch, every generation lasts approximately, I would say, 3 years. It's 3 to 4, but I think they're finally starting to settle into a cycle where it's every 3. And you get a new generation every 3 years. So, and probably 2 games within that generation at this point. I don't think they're ever going to do 3 like we saw with what generation. I don't think we've ever seen that with a well, we did. Last time was Gen 4 though. It was the last time we saw 3 sets of games in a generation, and that was Diamond and Pearl, followed by Platinum, followed by Heart Gold, Soul Silver. I don't think we'll see a remake and a third version ever again in the generation. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they realize that that's just too much. You can't expect consumers to purchase that. And I think so $300 for a Switch, right? You're pushing that. $300 for a Switch, and then $60 for a game, because it's going to be $60. They're not going to charge $40 for it. And if you're like us, you're spending $120 on a game, which is $420, and that's gonna let's multiply the games by 2, so $240. You're looking at $300 for 3 years plus an extra $240. So you're looking at $200 per year to compete. But if you're trying to do it seriously, you can cut that down significantly to like something like $150 a year to compete, which is on par with what we're doing. But you also assume that Gen 9 is going to be on some next-gen hardware, which isn't the Switch, which I think is a bold claim to make. The past 4 generations, they've actually had 2 generations on a system with the DS and the 3DS, and I can see the Switch also being a long-lasting piece of hardware. And so you're looking at Generation 9 also being on the Switch, so you kind of further reduce those costs if you're playing all 12 years, or not 12, all 6 years of the Pokemon cycle. And so that works out to $50 just for the Switch, and then maybe 4 games. So you're looking at, again, $240, divide that over 6, and you're looking at another $50, less than $100 to play.
Well, while you're making all these calculations, though, the Switch is absolutely a multi-purpose thing, and I bet a lot of people are. So, I doubt there are many people who are just buying the Switch and just buying the game so they can play competitive. I bet they have a few other things that they do it for. Whereas the people who are playing the TCG, but where the people who are playing the TCG are exclusively buying that just to play competitively TCG, unless they are collectors. That's the one other thing that
I think is a really interesting. We'll move on though, so we don't harp on this forever. But
we could go back and forth, but it's
exactly.
It's only so interesting.
So the last thing I wanted to talk about is that we got Famitsu coverage for Pokemon 2019. It confirmed that it was going to be a Gen 8 game. It wasn't going to be something else. I know this was a worry in people's minds. It was never a worry in mine. If they say they're coming out with a new core Pokemon game in 2019, that means they're coming out with a Pokemon game, like a proper Pokemon game. And it would obviously be Gen 8. That's how they work. And I want to calm people if they were having issues with that in their mind. They're like, man, is this next Pokemon game going to be Gen 8? Yes, the answer is yes. It always has been yes. Don't worry, I promise you the answer is yes. All right. But that's the big thing from it. It's going to have better graphics than Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, they claim, which I would expect.
Okay,
No, they said that. They said that. It was in the interview with Famitsu. They said, hey, we're going to have better graphics, the best looking Pokemon game this has ever been. I would argue that Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, they don't have great graphics, maybe in terms of Pokemon sprites, but if you look at the overworld and the trainers and stuff, it's very chibi-esque, and it's very cartoonish compared to something we had. If you look at Sun and Moon, that was a much better art style than the art style in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. I think it's a much more approachable art style that they have in Let's Go. But
it reminded me a lot of Oras, and not all in good ways. Very limited figures. It was bright and it was very colorful like Oras, but it also lacked a lot of the, I don't want to say nuance, but a lot of the depth in how things were scaled and looked. I mean, that's kind of why Alola still is more visually striking, even though it has worse hardware behind it.
You're going to see Let's Go just kind of, it's going to be this game that's an introductory game. And I know Snag and I have talked about this and about how, I mean, it's good for kids because you're going to have your kids play it. It's a gateway drug. Yep. It's a gateway drug to Pokemon. It's fantastic in that area. We talked about this last week. So I don't know. I do like the idea of us getting a more mature art style of sorts or a more traditional Pokemon art style where you're getting something that feels like a Pokemon game as opposed to something that, I mean, if you look at Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, it definitely feels like a spin-off game. I heard from Ruffled Rowlet, his opinion was that it looks very much like one of the games that you'll see on Facebook that's like the fake Pokemon games. It looks like that.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that hits that audience so well.
I guess my thought on it is for them to make the engine for Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and then less than a year later come up with a new game and a completely different art style. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar.
So what you're not considering in this case is that Game Freak has two teams that operate independently. They've also significantly upped their staff numbers in the past couple of years. So I think there's like 300 people working at Game Freak now. It's absurd. And that's the big thing. So I think half the reason that we got the Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee art style that we have now is because they only did it in a year. I think that has better implications for the Pokemon franchise as a whole, but they put that out in a year. They put out that art style in a year, and that's going to be the definitive art style of probably the Let's Go series. And I'm okay with that. I don't care. I don't care what the Let's Go series does. I'm not the person that they're making that game for. They're making that game for your kids. They're making that game for the guy that I met that only plays Pokemon Go, but he's just like, I'm going to buy a Switch because I can transfer my Pokemon to the Switch and ride my Onix around. And so that they made that game for somebody else, and they can keep that art style and they can do whatever they want. I think we're going to get something better.
And talking about just like, and building an engine is exhausting, but you're kind of underestimating how flexible that can be. Because really, that just defines how objects interact, not what they look like themselves. You can put any asset in, and in different engines, they might render it differently, but it doesn't really lock into a style.
All right. Well, we're just going to end the news there. We're going to kick it on over now, guys, to Puckle's Poke Quiz, where we're going to quiz your co-hosts on their innate Pokemon knowledge. And welcome to Puckle's Poke Quiz, the part of the show where we quiz your co-host on their innate Pokemon knowledge. We are going to ask them 5 questions worth 1 point apiece, and one of those questions is going to have a bonus point attached to it, so that's 6 questions, and they get 1 hint to use throughout the entire course. If they get all of the questions correct without using the hint, they can cash it in for a second point for a possible total of 7 points. All of these questions are going to be either really difficult or really hard, but I expect all 7 points to be gained today because this was a very quickly
really
put together quiz.
Or really hard?
Yeah, because when they're random, I don't have time to actually prep for them. So if you guys are competing against the other co-hosts first to 30 points, I think Whimsicott's winning. I don't know how many she has. She probably has like 20-some. I'm just going to make up a number and people are going to believe me. So
Just the next time she's on, let her win.
Yeah, I'm just going to be like, you have 30 points. Yay. And that's how it's going to work. So we are going to go ahead and go through these questions. If you guys are ready, I will start with question number 1.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Question number 1. I want to know what the longest Pokemon route is. Is it a route that I want to call it? I want to call it... Yeah, I want to call it a route, or not necessarily a route, but some section of the game. What is the longest one by tile?
Define longest, though.
What do you mean by define it? It's longest. Like you can go straight in it the longest.
Okay, because that's different than say it took you the most time.
No, yeah. Which one is the longest?
Oh dear.
It is the longest route in any core series game. So only core series games. They're all you have to think about.
So my thought.
It's not necessarily named route as well. Just keep that in mind because you do have other locations and stuff like that.
So my initial thought on this Lynian is that it's would be one of the biking trails where you can bike and like try to hatch your eggs either in like Gen 4 or Gen 5 and whatnot. But the fact that he's having hesitation calling it a route makes me think it's one of the bridges in Gen 5.
So it doesn't need to be called a route. I do want to make that clear. It doesn't need to be called a route.
Which is why I'm thinking it's one of the bridges in Gen 5.
If it's not a bridge in Gen 5, my question is, I don't know if my answer qualifies, but I think it would be Flower Paradise in Gen 4 where you encounter Shaman.
Ooh.
Where you're just running forever and ever and ever.
That's a good call. I think we should go with that answer because if Thatch had something else in mind, I think that one trumps it.
I don't. The problem is I don't know if it counts as a route, but
I don't see why it wouldn't.
I don't know because it's event locked. I don't know. I would say the Flower Paradise.
Let's go with that, and just for fun, as a runner-up, let's go with that answer. But I'm going to say, as a runner-up, let's call it Sky Arrow Bridge, which is probably wrong. It's the only bridge I can think of, though. But our primary answer, yes, is Flower Paradise.
All right, that is correct-ish. I'll take it because it's actually called Seabreak Path, but it leads to Flower Paradise. You were thinking of the right thing. But it is Seabreak Path because it is 256 units and 8 blocks on the town map, which it would be impossible for a game in Generation 3 to support this path because of how long it is.
55, that would do it.
Yep. So it is incredibly long, but that is correct. That is 1 point for you guys today. So we're going to move on. So this next question, we're going to forget Gen 7 even happened. We're going to forget Oraz even happened. And I want to know, up until X and Y, what is the only Pokemon family that was capable of being caught while holding the item Light Clay?
Okay, well, that was a question a while back, but I forget what the answer that was disqualified was. Well, it's not Mudbray.
It can get that. So we're only going up to X and Y. Only up to X and Y.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not Mudbray.
Yes.
And for some reason, like, it's jumping out to me to say Claydol, but I think that is.
I thought that was that added? Was that like it didn't have it before, but then it was added?
I don't remember. Shoot, and this was only like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So Light Clay was added Gen 4, yeah. Like it didn't exist before Gen 4, or did it?
I don't recall.
No, it was a Gen 5 item. No, it was Gen 5. And if it was it was introduced in Gen 5, it was only held item. It can't be Claydol.
Yeah, okay, I agree.
So what ground types were in that game?
There was Excadrill, there was
Golett. That's
yes.
Whimsicott said it was Golett.
Yes.
Is that your final answer?
I could be and you know what? That would make sense because Golett and Claydol, Golett and Baltoy are version exclusives in Ultra.
Yeah, let's go with that answer, Golett.
That is correct. That is Golett and Golurk. Claydol got it in Oraz. So
all right,
boom, boom, boom.
Good call, good catch, Lynian.
Yeah, boom. You guys are really going cray here. So I'll ask you. I'll give you an option here. I have 2 questions geared up, but one of them I don't know a good way to ask it. So, do you want a video game question or a TCG question?
Oh, video game.
I have a TCG question, but I don't think anybody in this room would be able to answer it properly.
Is it about Volcanion or Guzzlord?
No, no, it is not.
The jungle set.
No, not at all. So let's see here. Boop. I want to know what the lowest level possible to obtain that's not true. Let's not go with that one. Let's say what is the only Pokemon to get stabbed with Explosion, excluding Smeargle?
That can learn it naturally?
That can learn it. Explosion,
okay.
Not self-destruct. There's a difference.
For some reason, I thought that was like a tutor move at some point.
Nope. Maybe in Gen
Okay,
2.
so-
I'm talking about Gen 7 though. Like we're in Gen 7.
Snorlax is a self-destructor.
Yeah, I would say that was my first thought, but yeah, probably that. Not that. Trying to think about what other normal types would.
There's two answers actually. I just realized I'm an idiot, but there are two answers. So
See, Explosion, they don't tend to give to. It's a lot of rock types and ground types.
Yeah.
Or like machine Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we could go with Snorlax because he just changed to say, "Oh, there's two of them now."
I feel like this is wrong.
Let me think here.
Normal types that have explosion.
There's only two of them.
There's two of them. I know one of them
Okay.
because that was a gimmick with Licky Licky back in Gen 4. TM.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
Okay,
good.
TM, it learned it by TM. Trademark as well.
Okay, good. Licky, and then.
You don't need the other one. This isn't a two. I have a two-parter.
Oh, this was just. I thought this was a two.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I have a two-parter. This was an accidental two-parter. But
let's take Licky and run then.
Yeah.
That is correct. The other answer is Silvally. Silvally got it in Gen 7.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to.
Brought that last. I prepped with him with that. Oh.
Yeah, but Licky was the answer I was originally looking for. So that is correct. That is 3 points for you guys today. The next question is your double question answer, or your double point question, the bonus point. So there are two water rock type Pokemon that are not fossils. What are they?
Well, one is Relicanth. I know that much. I get so we have 1 point.
Yep. Corsola.
I mean, it's a living, huh?
Corsola.
A great drink. And
Those are your
worst
answers, right?
division. All right.
Yeah, those are our answers. Yeah.
That's correct
All right.
on both accounts. All right. So now we have to do the stat move as always. Let me pull up my list. I have a list that I go to now. Because I have to get like interesting, especially with Sublime now, memorizing all of them. So like I have to get really interesting about it. So we're gonna go with defense today, and I want to know what. Let's see. Let's find a good type. That would be a bad type to ask.
Rock.
Rock. Yeah. What is the only pure ghost type Pokemon with the highest base defense? Pure ghost type, not dual type.
Isn't it?
So
just
is
ghost.
it not Pythagoras?
That's what I was gonna say. That's my first thought.
What other pure ghosts really are? There's Miss Magius, but that's definitely wrong.
I accidentally made this question
Yes.
easy.
Let's go with Rodriguez then.
Let's go with. I don't want to be wrong because I'm so close to 7, but let's go with Cofagrigus.
That is correct.
Well, I actually don't know what it is for dual type.
For dual type, the answer is Aegislash. Like if it's ghost type, it's Aegislash.
Right.
Because
150, yeah.
because Aegislash has base 150. It actually is tied with Doublade. Fun fact for base defense. So take that for what you will. Base special defense is way lower, but base defense is the same. All right, though. So that is 7 points for you guys today. That is the first 7 points I've given out in forever. So good on you guys. Last minute trivia questions for the win. All right. So
all these points are probably going to go to waste.
They're all going to go to waste anyway because Whimsicott's going to win the next time she's on. So
exactly.
we are going to take a short break here, guys, and we'll be right back at you with the topic.
Hey Puckalonians, it's Sublime Manic. Can't get enough of your favorite flip-flopping podcast? Then check out our social media. You can find links to our Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube all from our website, puclpodcast.com. And you can join our Discord to hang out with your favorite hosts and other Puckalonians. Also, check us out at twitch.tv/thepuclpodcast. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, consider subscribing to our Twitch channel. You can also check us out at YouTube/PUCL Podcast. And we also have a Patreon if you're able to give anything at patreon.com/PUCL Podcast.
And on to the topic. Our topic today is going to be Pokemon Go and how it's changed the face of Pokemon pretty much forever. Because it's just had major implications on the franchise. Something that I don't think we would have guessed if we would have looked back at Pokemon probably somewhere around, I don't know. When did Pokemon Go come out? Like 2 years ago? So about 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't have...
In July.
I don't think we would have come to these conclusions, personally, about Pokemon Go. So I think it's an interesting way to talk about it just from the perspective of Pokemon Let's Go, and I think Let's Go is a symptom of Pokemon Go really doing things. I think another thing that's really interesting that I think people forgot about is that prior to the Switch's success, the Pokemon Company did not believe that the Switch was going to be a successful console, and they were planning to just go mobile hardcore after the Switch was released, or before the Switch's release. So I think that's just interesting because Pokemon Go is obviously successful at that point, and they're just like, you know what? Let's just ditch Nintendo consoles because these guys aren't doing anything right, and let's just go mobile with our game about elephants. That's a real insider reference. If anybody really wants to dig into,
I got it. I'm
pretty sure which one you're talking about.
Yeah. It's the one game that Game Freak developed that wasn't Pokemon. They developed a what's the name of the game? It's something the badass elephant.
The badass elephant. I don't remember the name.
It's just it's a game about a badass elephant, and that's really all it's about.
Low key though, it was fantastic.
It was also under the Sega brand, which is really interesting. It's under the Sega brand. So that's what happens when you have a second-party developer, because that's what Game Freak is. They're a second-party developer. They're not a first-party Nintendo developer. Well, maybe they are now. At some point, Nintendo's got to do something to these guys, right?
Am I misremembering? Didn't they also do Pocket Card Jockey?
They did that. Yes. Back in the 90s, they did Proto Man.
And they did recently a game that was on the 3DS that was about rhythm. It was a rhythm game. They did a rhythm game not too long ago. So that's something to remember as well. They do other games. I doubt they're doing it now. Especially with them developing Quest, which is super interesting. They were also developing 2 Pokemon games. They did the Let's Go game, which I think is a really smart thing on their part. I said this last week. I think it's incredibly smart for more reasons than I listed last week, but also because they came up with a way to fast develop a Pokemon game. Because we all know it takes like 2 or 3 years to come up with a good Pokemon game, a new generation, right? And they were just like, well, we have a year to do this, and they're just like, here's this like halfway solution, but it hits a market, and this is genius, right? I think that's a big thing. But I think Pokemon Go's had a really big implication on the franchise as a whole, and it's going to leave a mark, especially in terms of the type of people that it expanded the Pokemon community to include.
That's true. Yeah.
I think they definitely expanded their market with it, which I think is interesting. And now we can't just let those people not be part of the community forever.
I'm relatively active in like the Pokemon Go community where I live, and yeah, it seems like there are a lot of people who are out there and they're playing and they're really just focused on the Go stuff. They're not focused on anything else. Hardly anyone else talks about the regular games or anything like that. It's just a very different crowd, yeah.
I would say that. And I think if you look at the people who were upset about the Let's Go release, I think those are the people that don't understand the people who don't play it for anything other than Go. They get really upset at those people, and they're just like, you're ruining my Pokemon. But not really. They're just trying to find a new way to embrace those people and bring them fully into the community. Because you could bring Let's Go into it, and then you could have your regionals and your nationals, and now you found a way, outside of having like a cool raid battle outside, of bringing that group of people into the Pokemon community, right? I feel like this is a nice bridge, personally. This Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, because you can bring those people in and you can be like, hey, we're going to have a side event where you can battle each other with your Switches in Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu, right? And
that's true.
I mean, you can just have side events, and I think that's a good way to enter it. I mean, they've been doing that for years in terms of people who only care about the Gen 1 games and the Gen 2 games and have those on their 3DS. They've been really good about that. So that's something that I think is really interesting to talk about. I don't know. They're definitely I don't want to say forgotten, but they're definitely the people that aren't brought up in conversation when you think about the Pokemon community as a whole. You don't see a lot. I feel like it's almost its own separate community, which I think Pokemon notices and Nintendo has noticed, and they're trying to find a way to bring them together so that you can have one big giant fan base, and then you get cooler parties, guys. Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
You just get cooler parties.
I think a lot of the fear comes in with people who aren't super into Pokemon Go, and they're like, I don't want my thing to change.
Yeah, I can see
that.
that.
Every time it's like, the Let's Go, it's like, oh, but I love these mechanics. I don't want to see all of this added. They don't want to have what they love taken away. It's a lot of when I see people like lashing out at like this is the terrible idea. They're just pandering to the casuals or whatever.
They are.
Really, what I see is a bunch of people who are like, I love my thing. Please do not take it away from me. And I don't think Pokemon will.
No, absolutely not. I think that they were very smart about the way they announced everything. They were very clear that there was another game coming out in 2019 when they announced Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. They said these games are happening, but we're coming out with a core experience next year. And that's the thing, because they did it before they even went into details about Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. They were just like, hey, here's the experience. We're just going to move forward with it.
And what I think also, like, it may be hard to see it like in the short term, but in the long term, I think this is better for the core series of games because now there's not the pressure to get a core game out every year. I'd be perfectly happy with if we alternate Let's Go titles and main series titles for Infinity. I mean, it hits both fan bases, and it gives more time to make just better, solid quality games, for the people who want it. I mean, let's face it, folks. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon was pushed out the door.
Oh, it was garbage, man. It was hot garbage.
Well, it's either like you can think of it one or two ways. Like you could either say like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon was a good game, and that's the game that we should have gotten in the first place, or Sun and Moon was pushed out faster than it should have been, and that one was, if we would have just gotten Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, I think everyone would have been good. Like, yeah, this is a good this is a new good Gen 7 game. But with trying to get these two back to back, like it kind of watered down the whole experience, I thought.
You're not wrong. I think you're exactly right, because we've been so untrained from the whole idea of a third version of the game for the past, I think it's since 2009. That was the last time we got Platinum. That was the last time we got a third version. And we expect something different at this point. Our expectations are different. It's been 9 years, I guess when we got it, it's been 8 years since we had seen a proper third version game. Here in the US, it's even longer in Japan. And that's something I think they kind of overlooked in terms of, hey, we're putting out a new Pokemon game. What I do like your idea of like repeating them. I think what we're going to see more though is because we've had this pattern of we get 2 Pokemon games, then a gap year, 2 Pokemon games, and a gap year. I think we're going to continue to see 2 Pokemon games, and instead of a gap year, though, we're going to get a Let's Go game. I think that's how it's going to go, and we're going to get a Pokemon quote-unquote annual release. That's the way I think it's going to go, and I think that's a smart direction to go.
Yeah, we get a franchise drop, even if we don't get a series drop, and that tends to be more healthy for things moving forward.
I think so.
Pokemon Go. I was going to say, I think Pokemon Go has forever changed how Pokemon will be marketed and how certain things will be developed, maybe. But I don't think it's forever changed how Pokemon will be played. I don't think mechanics are going to start to be tied. I don't think we're going to lose complexity. I think what it has done is given them a very different strategy for how to engage with the public and how to engage their developers just spending time.
Yeah, I think that's exactly true. I think they found a really healthy way to appease the people that get really upset when there's a gap year. I mean, if you think back to 2015, because that was the last year we hadn't had a Pokemon game, was 2015. And if you look back at that, there was a lot of upset and outrage. One, because
making this podcast.
Yeah. Well, when you go 50 some weeks without a game announcement, it kind of hurts. Okay. And you're doing a weekly show, it just kind of hurts your soul on the inside. But something like that, I think will definitely help out the franchise in general. Also, just being more predictable, I think really helps them out. Since 2013, I think they've been trying to do a good job of becoming a more predictable franchise in terms of their releases. And I think this is kind of the final step into that frontier and being like, okay, people know what we're going to give them and they know when we're going to give it to them. I don't need Pokemon to be revolutionary. Honestly, you could honestly just give me a game that's exactly like what we just got with a different story, with a few new Pokemon, and I'd honestly be happy. That's all I need. I don't need any new mechanics. I don't need Z-Move Plus or Mega Evolution or whatever their next new mechanic is. I hope they're done with mechanics, honestly, because that's just going to further convolute the game.
When they don't bring those mechanics back.
Yeah, right.
Or like how in competitive right now, it's you get your Z move and your Mega.
Yeah, it's just going to be, because I'm really not looking forward to the 2019 rules for VGC, because if you look at that, we're just creating more and more OP Pokemon for that format in general, because the problem is Mega Ray is going to be nutsos to play against. And this is because, one, it's Mega Ray. It's got base stat total of 780. It's not holding an item. And so that was before that was like, okay, this is a little ridiculous. But now instead of holding like Focus Sash or something, it's going to hold a Z Crystal. Like you want a Mega running a Z move?
It can't.
It can't? Are you kidding me? Why not?
I'm pretty sure Mega Rayquaza cannot use a Z move.
I do not.
Because it's the same button to use the Z move and the Mega Stone or the Mega Evolve.
And
I don't believe that.
It just keeps that button grayed out. No,
really?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Let's find
pretty
out.
sure that
I've played enough Anything Goes. You can't.
Let me find out. I'm gonna find out. You guys keep talking. I'm investigating.
But still, the fact that Mega Rayquaza, is going to be available. I mean, huge base stat total. It Mega Evolves and it gets to hold an item that's not the Z Crystal. But there are so many, I remember I did a little bit of VGC when Mega Rayquaza was available. Like, okay, I'll use Xerneas. Xerneas will take it out. Nope, Focus Sash.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are correct, by the way. The Z Crystal cannot be held by Mega Rayquaza. Thank God, and this person agrees with me. Thankfully, Game Freak had enough common sense to not allow Mega Rayquaza to be able to use Z moves.
But with that being said, though, you're probably correct that you're also going to get Ultra Necrozma out there.
Which is essentially a Mega.
With a Z move.
Yeah, with
the
Z
Z move, yeah.
Also, it gets Photon Geyser, which is the biggest piece of garbage in the world. Like, I say this as a person who plays Ubers with... I play Ubers with Ultra Necrozma, because Photon Geyser, for those of you who are uninitiated in any kind of... Or even in the Uber scene, you're not very familiar with Photon Geyser, because, come on, why are you using that? You're not playing with Necrozma or anything, right? If you use something like Swords Dance, and you see Photon Geyser's a special move, you're like, well, Swords Dance isn't going to help it. Fun fact, Photon Geyser just uses whatever stat is higher, attack or special attack, and uses that stat as if it were and deals special damage still. So you can use Swords Dance and still get that, and you can have access to Earthquake, you can have access to whatever other move you want. Sunsteel Strike, you can just have that for fun. That's
good to know that move works that way, because I'm going up against Dennis this week for PDL.
Well, so he has regular Necrozma, thank God. But
he can't Ultra, but
he can't Ultra. It does get Photon Geyser. But typically on an actual regular Necrozma, this is going a little bit off topic, but a regular Necrozma will not have a what's it called? Will not have a
Photon Geyser move.
Photon Geyser. You don't run it. It's not that good on Necrozma. You might as well just run Psychic.
Fair enough.
I'll say this about, and just to kill the discussion on adding mechanics gets hyper complicated, not necessarily better. It doesn't get more fun. It just gets harder to learn.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Not about Pokemon Go.
Yeah, I mean, it does get... I hope we don't see in Gen 8, like, another mechanic. I'd be okay with them. What I think would be a really interesting way for them to do it is to just keep playing on the Alolan form mechanic, the regional variant mechanic. I think that gives them a lifetime of stuff to play with, because what they can do is they can go to Gen 8 and they go, oh, well, in this region, all of the Gen 2 Pokemon have something different about them. You know, I think that would be something interesting they could go with. because you can get, we can call this form Italy, and then you get like Italy form Lantern and stuff like that.
Galeza, let's say.
Yeah,
Galeza.
Yeah. I doubt Galade, but
Spoilers.
I would say something Gen 2, like Lantern is open to something like that. Mareep would be open for that. Man, it'd be really cool to see a new regional variant on Mareep. That would be down. I'd be down for that. Yeah. Like a fairy type or something, Mareep. That would be really cool.
Well, I was thinking make it normal steel and then have it be a steel wool. There you go.
Give it something more aggressive. That'd be fun too. But
I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, it's interesting because like I wonder how the Pokemon Go community will do this, because again, the Pokemon Go community, though, kind of sort of focusing it back on the main topic, they're used to playing games primarily on their phones, not necessarily on a dedicated console, and they're also used to having 2 moves, and they tap those moves.
Yeah. So
Let's Go will be a good bridge, I think, because it has the turn-based, and it has the 4 moves kind of
Exactly. Thing. I think what we're going to see here is you're going to see the epitome of the PvP in the Go community right here. You're not going to have... so I don't expect a majority of Go players to switch. If they do go and buy a Switch, if 50% of the Go community goes and buys a Switch to play Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, it'll blow my mind, but I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't expect it.
It would be the best-selling console ever.
Yes, exactly.
It would be the best-selling console ever.
I expect something like 10%, 10% of the Go players that don't already have one to go out and buy one.
And that's
still significant.
Several 100,000 people.
Yes, I do.
Which is not saying it's impossible. It's just a lot.
Yeah. I think that's what I expect. It could be more, but I could see it being one of those things like if you have an EX raid pass, you're going to see people with their Switches playing Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. And
yeah,
I think that's one of the things you'll notice even on community days. You'll see Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee being played as well, because it's going to be the way you get your PvP in Pokemon Go. People are always asking, how are we going to do PvP? Well, you know how we're going to do it? You know why we haven't had it for a while? Because Nintendo said we couldn't, because they're going to develop a game that solves this problem. Here's Pokemon Stadium for Pokemon Go, and it's called Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. So I honestly see something like that. I think it hits a more specific market than just all of the Pokemon Go crowd as well, I think. Just because you're hitting the Pokemon Go crowd that came back because Gen 1. And because Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee only has Gen 1 Pokemon. You can't evolve your Golbat. These are the problems that I hate. And and that pisses me off a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I really hate when they did that in Leaf Green and Fire Red. I thought that was the worst mechanic they could have possibly done, is just prevent me from evolving into a Crobat that we all knew existed at this point.
I wish they would have fixed it by doing like a Gen 1 Plus. Like you get all the Gen 1 Pokemon and their evolutions.
Yes, that's the way I think they should have handled it. But then the problem is you get stuff that hasn't come out in Pokemon Go yet by then.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Gen 4 stuff that you have to worry about. By a lot, I mean like Tangrowth and Licky Licky. And Munchlax, I guess, technically.
Well, that's fine, though, because there's not really a whole lot of communication for these games back to Pokemon Go.
That sounds right. Yeah, I do believe that.
It's Pokemon Go to the console, and there's just that one new Pokemon that's a gift that they've shown goes back to Go.
Yeah, I don't know. They haven't had much good explanation. We'll probably get something more at E3 this week. I think we'll hear something more about that. At least get a definitive answer. Hey, can you go back from Let's Go Pikachu to Go? Because they haven't given a definitive answer on that yet.
I would be shocked if you could, because it would be the easiest way to crack the fair play that is kind of how Pokemon Go is.
I would argue otherwise. I would argue at this point.
I mean, if I go to Victory Road and catch 1,000,000 Onix, I can eventually get a perfect Onix and then send it up. It's going to be a lot easier than wandering around my streets praying that I get something with over a 10 IV.
So I would argue that it would have to do, this is definitely more to hit. So if it does go back to Go, I think restricting it to Gen 1 Pokemon is a smart move in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, because Pokemon Go's been out by the time this Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee come out, it'll be out for 2.5 years. By then, we're probably going to start to hit Gen 4 in Pokemon Go release. And
Yeah.
It's just getting to a point there's too many Pokemon. So how do you remedy that for a person who just jumps into Pokemon Go? Well, you have Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. It makes it easier for you to get those Gen 1 Pokemon that you quote-unquote missed out on. They just did that Kanto event not too long ago. But I think this is another way to answer that problem, is to say, oh, hey, you have Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. You can get the Gen 1 Pokemon, and you do that. And if you come out with the game once every 3 years, you found a really healthy solution, I think, to hitting Pokemon that you didn't have a chance to hit. So that's the way I see it.
I see other possibilities. I could go on for a long amount of time what Pokemon Go could do to make this more fun, but I don't think that would be a particularly fun conversation to listen to. Going over the possible ways they could be like, hey, you missed Gen 2 week, here you go, bucko. But who knows?
I don't know.
I do have faith that people are paid more than I am to actually come up with workable solutions.
Welcome to the real world. That's probably not true.
Oh, I'm so sad.
All right. Well, that's a good place to stop, I think. So we are going to take a short break here, guys. Go to the commercial, and we'll be right back at you with the Pokemon of the episode. We will catch you on the flip-flop.
And last time on Dedenes of Our Lives, Ivysaur was still trying to find out who the father of her child was. Ivysaur! Ivysaur! She knew that it could be Charmeleon's son, but they'd also had an affair with Chansey.
Charmeleon! Chansey!
And meanwhile, Meowstic and Baneri were seeing each other behind Galade's back.
Meowstic! Baneri! Galade!
Join us for the fist-clenching, heart-wrenching season finale of Dedenes of Our Beautiflies.
Episode. And welcome back to the Pokemon of the episode. Our Pokemon of the episode this week is National Dex number 563, Coffagrigus, the Coffin Pokemon.
The Pokemon Black 2, White 2 Pokedex entries say, grave robbers who mistake them for real coffins and get too close end up trapped inside their bodies.
Ooh. Yeah, no, this Coffagrigus is like super spooky. All the ghost-type Pokemon are super spooky. So that should be noted. All ghost-type Pokemon are super spooky. But he has a base stat total of 483. Not that great. However, 145 base defense with 105 special defense with a 95 special attack, followed up with everything else that is pure garbage. 50 attack, 58 HP, and 30 speed. But he's an all right Pokemon.
You know,
I'm honestly surprised.
If it had just a little more HP, then, I mean, you're talking about just like a really solid wall all around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm really amazed right now. It's in NUBL, so it's essentially RU, but it's the bottom of RU. My guess is that it's due to usage, mostly because it used to be in Gen 6 a Pokemon that was OU capable. So that means it's UU capable today. But Coffagrigus was actually pretty decent. You could run a defensive variant, something like Willow, Shadow Ball, or Hex. Probably Hex, because then you get the max out of that Willow damage. And then you could do Pain Split. Then he has access to Haze, Knockoff, Toxic Spikes. These are all really good moves. 252 HP, 252 defense. This is the way I still like to do it with leftovers. However, there is another way that I think is really fun to run it in Gen 7, which is to run Z Haze. So you run ICM Z, because Z Haze not only resets the stats, but it also gives you another full health bar, which for something like Coffagrigus with a base HP of 58, that's something that could be really useful, just getting some more reliable health recovery, essentially getting yourself a full recover.
Yeah, once you're done whittling down its health, then you have to do it all again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really... Coffagrigus is a nice bulky mon. It's really hard to get around. So it's just something to think about. I honestly am really amazed that he's not used more right now, because I think the only sets that Smogon lists right now for like using him are Trick Room variants. And while he does work all right in Trick Room, go get something else. Like, just also, these are like horrible abilities, but He doesn't need to do Trick Room. He can definitely get away with something more defensive and just be a bulky wall. I think.
Exactly.
I think he'd get away with it in UU. Outside of something like maybe Gengar coming up against it, but that's every Pokemon. Every Pokemon has another Pokemon that beats it. So you just remove that's how you play Pokemon competitively. You remove one Pokemon that stops one Pokemon from working really well, and then you use the one Pokemon that works really well. So that's what you do.
Part of what's interesting is its signature ability in Mummy.
Yeah.
Because that is what I like about Mummy is it basically you take an ability that does absolutely nothing for you, predicated on the knowledge that it's probably going to be much worse for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't survive anything that you would not have survived because of Mummy, unless you remove Scrappy. But really, what it does, it's like, hey, look, your Mega Medicham, it's useless. Mm-hmm. Your Mega Lopunny can't hit me now. You chip away at what they can do, and as a design principle, I'm fascinated.
It's an interesting ability. It's a lot of fun. It's the ability that keeps on giving too. So that's something else to think about, because once you get a Mummy on yourself, if you're not Cofagrigus, you can just continue passing it around, which I think is fantastic. If you're using Cofagrigus, it's something to think about, because Mummy can just get passed on to you, and you can end up doing the same thing to you, because maybe you're just about to go down, and then your opponent grabs Mummy from you, and yeah, it sucks for them, but you can bring in your Sweeper, your Mega Medicham, your Lopunny, and get your ability changed as well. So just something to think about. He does get some awesome moves that I'm really surprised aren't used more. The one that I think is really surprising, I've only seen this used once on Klefki, is Crafty Shield. He gets access to this. I didn't know that. It's only really usable in double battles, in my opinion, but Crafty Shield just protects the user and allies from status moves. It's essentially Wide Guard, but for status moves, which I think is really interesting. It's a cool move, and it's something that you wouldn't expect, and especially in VGC now, where the meta's kind of slowing down until 2019 hits, and then we're just 4 turns away from a game ending every single day, because we're just using Ultra Necrozma. But
just praying.
Yeah, he doesn't get, his move pool isn't super deep, so that's part of the things that get to him. But the moves that he does get, I think, are a really interesting combination of moves. He also gets Iron Defense.
He gets Toxic Spikes.
No, he's a really good defensive mon, and I think that's how you should capitalize on him. I don't think Trick Room Sweeper is the way to do it. Looking at you, Smogon.
It does have Nasty Plot, which I guess it has a 95 base, which is already it's not a sweeper, but it's reasonable.
After a Nasty Plot,
really gonna sting.
Yeah, after a Nasty Plot, it's essentially like a +1 special sweeper anywhere else, in my opinion. And so it definitely it's not terrible.
But you got a Trick Room, then you got a Nasty Plot, and then Trick Room, and you're already 2 turns before you can do anything.
It's really slow. I don't like that strategy. I don't like the idea. I'd much rather run it, like I said, as a defensive Pokemon. This is me personally. Somebody else might be like, well, Thatch, you could run it like this. And I tell them, that's fine. That's your playstyle. My playstyle would be play it defensively. I am not the only Pokemon I can see effective. This is all in terms of singles, by the way. You can maybe effectively use Trick Room in something like VGC, but in terms of singles, the only Pokemon I've ever played with Trick Room personally is Magearna, and that's just because Magearna plays really well into the Trick Room strategy, because you just set up your own Trick Room, and then it just kind of keeps running itself. I've lied. I've ran 2 Pokemon, Stack Attack. With Trick Room.
Stack Attack is that's one of my favorite sets of all time.
I think he's super cheesy, but if you're gonna run seriously competitive, I would say Magearna. If you want to be cheesy, I would say Stack Attack.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. Go for it.
There are a lot of weird bits of trivia about Cofagrius.
Okay.
First off, no Pokemon has the same egg group combination. With it having mineral and amorphous. Usually things tend to be in one and nothing else, or one and a water group. Nothing shares that. And previously, it was impossible to trade a Cofagrius that wasn't nicknamed over the internet because of the censor bar. Which... You'd think someone would have seen that one coming.
Yep.
But they didn't. And for all of all of Gen 5, it couldn't happen.
Yep. So configure.
No, they fixed Sharpedo.
Yeah, they did fix that one.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So Kofagrigus hasn't had a TCG card in quite a while.
I just looked those up myself. Yeah, they're playable and expanded, but not in.
They only made Gen 5 I can't believe they've only made Gen 5 Kofagrigus cards, by the way. That blows my mind.
Yeah, I know.
That they haven't. There wasn't even one in Gen 6. I could have swore there was at least one. But let's talk about the most recent one. It's probably garbage. I haven't looked at it yet. 100 HP Psychic type, obviously, because it's Ghost type in the TCG. For one colorless energy, he does Elongating Arm. This attack does 31 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Bleh. You have Tapu Koko, who does way better than that right now. And then you have Crazy Slap, which is 40 times for a Psychic and a double colorless. So I can already tell you this is going to be awful. Because you have to flip 4 coins, and the attack does 40 damage times the number of heads. Flipping coins for moves is awful. So I'm going to say that Kofagrigus is really bad. This is from Plasma Freeze, for those of you who are like, well, now I'm going to build a deck around it, Thatch. And I go, have fun. It's just not going to work. There was another Plasma Freeze one as well. There were 2 in Plasma Freeze. That's really interesting.
If you want to play the E-Honda strategy, you can. Just a lot of crazy slapping. Yeah. I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, it's just not very good.
You'll high roll one match.
It's not very good. You need better cards to make it better. Because the other one isn't very good either. The only thing it has going for it is this ability that when it's knocked out, you can put 3 damage counters on the opponent's Pokemon. But we have Bursting Balloon, which I guess is going to go out after this rotation. And Bursting Balloon just puts 6 damage counters, even if you just get attacked. So I feel like...
Yeah, and then even the attack on there isn't a very good one either.
No. It's another slap. It's a slap of misfortune.
If you have to lose to do anything good, you suck.
Yeah. It's not a good card. It's already a stage 1, so I just wouldn't suggest it whatsoever. But that is Kofagrigus for you guys. It is a Pokemon. I still think it's a really good one. You could probably get away with it in UU. So definitely give it a shot if you can. We're going to be talking about UU on the next Battlecast, so I'm pretty excited. I don't think Kofagrigus will make it, but we do have some stuff ready for Battlecast this month.
Oh, on that note,
go ahead.
I'm going to throw out a quick plug here. As some of you may know, I do another podcast called Pokemon Rollout. It's a real play Pokemon Tabletop United game. And in a forthcoming episode sometime, not exactly sure when, but in a forthcoming episode, there will be a Kofagrigus showing up. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is going to be it for the Pokemon of the episode. We are going to kick it on over and change gears to the mailbag.
Time. It's time for the mailbag. Send in your emails. The mail's here. Check your inbox. It's time for the mailbag. Mail!
And welcome to the mailbag. As always, it is brought to you by the energy drink Green Tauros, the energy drink that gives you hubs. And nice and delayed, as always. And as always, we are going to go ahead and read listener emails. If you're new to the show, this is the segment where we read those. You can send in your emails to puclpodcast@gmail.com. We typically have a question. We wanted to know what your thoughts were on Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were today. We're probably just going to keep that going. But I do want to know this week, if you want to send one in to puclpodcast@gmail.com, you can do one with the prompt of how do you think Pokemon Go is shaping the community? Is it for the better? Is it for worst? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What are your thoughts? Let us know by sending an email to puclpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll probably read it on the show. Our bar's pretty low. So we're going to go ahead and jump into these emails, though. The first one is from Cleary. Hey, what's up, Puckle Peeps? It's Cleary. So I watched the reveal as it happened on Twitter and was astonished by the trailer for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. They look fantastic graphically and pretty much what I expected as Game Freak's first steps into HD-ified Pokemon game. I will say the Go mechanics that were brought over did worry me initially, but I've pretty much come to terms with the fact that this isn't the Pokemon game that was made for me. That's coming next year. Co-op looks fun. Being restricted to only throwing Pokeballs at wild Pokemon is not something I'm looking forward to doing, especially with the likes of Mewtwo and the birds. Oh man, I did see that with my wife.
Oh.
I'm like, wow, this is going to be so anticlimactic. You're just going to throw a Pokeball at Mewtwo, and it's going to be like, oh, that was a thing.
I wonder if they'll come up with a different way to handle that. Just because, yeah, it would be for the legendaries. Maybe there'll be something like you'll have to something else, something different. I don't know, but it's
like the last course in Pokemon Snap, where it was like a whole thing to try to get a picture of Mew. You had to like throw the pester balls.
I imagine it more being like a quote unquote raid, and you do have to battle it, but you have to beat it, and then at the end you get the chance to capture it. That's the way I would see it. I think that's an easy solution.
That would make a lot of sense, actually. If they're paralleling Go, so like the only battles you have would be against those Pokemon.
Exactly. All right. Co-op looks fun. Being restricted to only throwing Pokeball, and I think Pokemon being naturally displayed in the overworld is a nice feature taken from Go, but I probably won't want it in Gen 8. But that Pokeball Plus accessory, count me in. Pokewalker 2.0, baby.
If you can get one.
If you can get, well, just wait. You'll be able to get one. It's going to be like the Go Plus. Just wait like 6 months and then you'll get one.
Yeah, I still that'll be pretty rare. But yeah, they have been more the Go Pluses have been more readily available. But yeah. I think if you're looking to get one at launch, good luck.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get one at launch. More interesting to me is the comments made by Ishihara on Famitsu regarding the 2019 game, as it will have better graphics than any other Pokemon game, including Let's Go, aimed at experienced fans, not like Let's Go Pokemon and Let's Go Eevee, or Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and contain a bunch of new Pokemon. All sound promising. Later, Puckle Crew, Cleary. This is true. I agree with all of that. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. All right. So our next one is from Carl.
All right, I got this one. Hey, Thatch and crew, I love the show, and I look forward to it every week. When all the rumors about Let's Go come out, I'm not going to lie, I was a bit nervous, as I just recently have gotten into VGC and other formats on Showdown, and was naturally worried about what a more Pokego-style game would mean for that. Even after finding out that Gen 8 was still going to be a thing, I wasn't overly excited for this game. That was until my fiance watched the trailer over my shoulder and said she would love to play through the game with me in multiplayer. Yeah, that's fantastic. This is Snag talking now. Like, being able to play with other people and like kind of get them into the series is like fantastic. It's an awesome way to approach it. So I'm excited to do that with my kids and maybe my wife. We'll see if Dr. Odno can get into it too.
This is literally the definition of a gateway drug. Like,
exactly
right here. This is the gateway drug.
This game would have been huge when I was a kid because it would have let me play with my little sister. Mm-hmm. And that was something that we wanted to do, but there was not a lot of things that we really had. We had like Melee, but it was competitive. So I'm excited to see what this does for other people.
Back into the email. So Carl says she isn't really that nerdy, but 2 weeks after Pokemon Go came out, she came out.
Oh, he forgot the word had.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see, she isn't really that nerdy, but 2 weeks after Pokemon Go came out, she had 3 seizures and had to quit working. So us being in our early 20s with no savings became quite strapped for cash. This caused us to play Go a lot since it was free, and she really likes it, and is actually a higher level than me now. I've tried ever since Sun and Moon to get her to play a more traditional style Pokemon game, and she always refused until now. I'm sorry for such a long-winded email. It really isn't. But I just want to remind all of you that have been playing for years that just because there's a new Pokemon game doesn't mean it was made just for you. Keep up the good work, Carl.
Yeah, no, as long as the word count's like under 500, I would not be worried about your email. It's when it reaches like 16 to 30,000 words, 1,600 to 3,000 words. That's where it gets an issue.
No, Carl, you bring up some good points, and Cleaver made this as well. This game isn't necessarily made for us, and we've said that a few times, but it is that way to get the other people into like what the real games would be, and like kind of like Lynian said, it is the gateway drug. It's to get people to play, and if anything, it's just even if it doesn't get them into bigger things, it does get them into the core series a little bit. So.
Say mainline. I feel like the community's got to develop a different definition for mainline and for core. I feel like there's something that's
You're right,
impending.
mainline.
I would call this mainline, but I would not call it core. If that
You're
makes
right.
sense. Because
That does make sense, yeah.
it doesn't have the core mechanics, but it has the mainline concept. That's how I'll say it. Those are the words. All right.
It bridges that gap.
Yeah. So we have one more from 10 little men. All 10 of them sent in one email.
And it's just each of them, they're so little, they each took a key, just jumping up and down.
Yep. That's how I imagine it.
And that's how I got it. Bonjour, Thatch, and his très magnifique co-hosts. You're in Vancouver.
Yeah,
10
he's
little men has returned to answer this week's mailbag question. Well, actually, I lied. Honestly, I don't have a strong opinion of Pokemon Let's Go, so I'm just going to go off topic instead. I have been playing a bundle of Nuzlocks, and it's brought some critical points to my attention. I want to bring up the topic of rivals. $5 says he's going to rag on Hal. I finished up a Crystal Nuzlocke, and it reminded me that Gen 2 has the best rival, and my current Platinum playthrough has reminded me that Gen 4 rival makes X and Y rivals look great in comparison. It's like they took the worst parts of How, multiplied them by 10, and got rid of all of How's redeeming features. Wow, I lost money. And yes, How does have some redeeming features. He gets a bad rap, but I think that's because the protagonist is the rival. The protagonist becoming the rival makes sense when you stop and think about it. Beating Butthead in RBY feels great because of his snarky attitude, but it makes sense for him to be so ahead of you all the time when you are literally the best. It makes no sense, rather, for him to be so ahead of you all the time when you are literally the best trainer ever. One last short point I never really thought I would say. I kind of miss HMs. They bring utility to Pokemon that I would otherwise never use, and that's neat. Personally, I think X and Y handled HMs almost perfectly, but how do all of you feel about them? This is starting to get way too long, so I'll save the rest for another week. 20 unforgettable flip-flops, 10 little men. We'll smell you later.
So HMs.
I don't miss them. I
don't think
I've
anybody...
I've played...
I can see it as a great story mechanic, and it's a little bit better than somebody coming up to me at a certain point during Sun and Moon and being like, well, now you can use this ride Pokemon. I would like something to be more of a wall in front of me, like, oh, I need to get the badge and get the HM to be able to move on to this next part of the story. I do like that, the kind of quest it pushes. They are, in Sun and Moon, they were being very handholdy. And like we talked about last show, I really hope that the Let's Go franchise allows us to get less handholdy and see if they can do something else with the ride Pokemon feature. We can get HMs and stuff like that, or something that's better than that, but still have the kind of story that HM's allowed for.
See, I think... here's my thought on HMs. So when he says X and Y handled HMs perfectly, basically you don't need an HM to traverse through the regular part of the game, but like to go to like some of the secret spots, that's when you need those HMs.
Untrue.
And I think that is kind of
untrue. In X and Y, you did need Surf. You did need it.
Okay, but Surf is actually a good move though.
That's true.
Yeah, and you're very likely to have something with Surf.
But anyways, to a limited fashion, you needed those HMs. So that could almost be like your second playthrough. You have 5 Pokemon and then your HM helper, which I appreciate that as well. I think that's a good way to do it. I do think ride Pokemon are a little bit like hand-holding. It's like, here's a Pokemon for you to use. But instead of doing that, why don't they make it this type of thing like, people on this island catch this Pokemon to do this type of ride. Why don't you do that too? And almost make it where like it is your Pokemon that you're using, your Pokemon that you're calling from your Pokemon caller. Yeah, your ride pager. And so that way it makes it like an in-game thing, and it's still your Pokemon that's doing it. It's just not taking up a slot in your team.
I think you come to some problems with that. I feel like you come to some problems just because you can hit a few things with that. Really, I don't know. Like, one, you have to design the Pokemon around what's on the island, and it's typically base level Pokemon. And if you look at the ride Pokemon that we have Charizard, Machamp, Tauros is an exception to that, but then you have Lapras, which is typically pretty rare. Sharpedo and evolved Pokemon.
You can just handle it like, hey, look, there are these Charizards on this mountain, and you go up, and they're not just like there in the wild grass. It's a special scripted encounter.
I would prefer it to be like Totem Pokemon or something. You bring it in that, and then you defeat it, and then it's willing to help you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think the problem with presentation, not mechanic. I do not like having a slot of my party that's basically dedicated to not fighting.
Here's the other
couple of games to make it very much your journey, and these are your Pokemon. These are your team. Like the XP share means that even if I've got a bunch of water types and I'm going through a grass-infested area, so they can't really soak up this experience, they're not forgotten. It's less about the journey, and it's more about how you want to interact with it. And I don't want that to go away by forcing you to carry strength or to surf, even if it's just once or twice. I think that there's a middle point where we can. I think the presentation of Ride Pokemon was where it failed, not its execution.
So here's my one last thought about HMs. Like I said, Surf was like the perfect HM. You said, okay, yeah, you needed to have Surf, but Surf was a good, viable move to have on a Pokemon. Why don't you make that for all of the moves? And instead of Cut, you get Slash. Instead of Strength, you get something else. But basically, you make these useful attacks, maybe vary up the types a little bit, so that they're attacks that you don't mind having on your Pokemon.
That's a really good point. I think you could do something like that just because when the HMs were first made, it was in Gen 1, and Gen 1 inherently had a lot of problems. And so something like, I think if you...
No.
So there were
don't you bad talk Gen 1.
Oh, it's so bad.
It's perfect. There's no problems with it.
Yeah, there's no bugs, no problems, no imbalanced features or anything. It's fine.
No bug.
You can't just
attacks doing...
Yeah.
No bug attacks attacking psychic Pokemon. No bugs at all.
Exactly. And so you have then you have Cut, Strength, Flash. All these are normal type moves that are garbage. Fly is almost all right if it wasn't a 2-turn move. And then you have Surf, which we all say is good. And the problem is they never kind of like refilled it with good moves ever, except for Waterfall. and that you just need a good move. You need a good move. You need make Strength a fighting type move, and then I think everybody would be happy, right?
Yeah. And part of it's like thing. I don't want a bird Pokemon all the time, but I need one because I need to fly. I don't. Yep. There have been teams I've made that don't have a Surf capable. I just want to use these Pokemon, but I can't because I need. Going through X and Y, it was awful because I was like, oh, I need Fly. I don't like any of these birds. I guess I have to use one, and that's not fun. That was. It was basically a slog with me having to figure out what cool thing I was not going to get to use because I needed convenient travel.
Yeah.
To be fair, you don't have to use Fly, I don't think, in any of the games. You can just, like I said, slog through on foot.
Yeah, but you need Waterfall or you'll need Surf. Especially Waterfall, that comes at the end of the game. So which party member is not going to get to go into Victory Road and soak up all of that critical experience? You get to play that game.
Yeah.
All right. We'll cut it off there. So we're gonna end the show there, guys. I don't know who has the green Tauros badge roll and who doesn't.
We can find this out. We
do. It's super easy.
The roll.
10 Little Men already has it. Cleary does not, I know. And then and then Carl. So it's either Cleary or Carl. Cleary or Carl?
I will say that I'll throw my bid in with Carl.
Okay.
We had a lot of discussion about that. We were able to talk about it a bit.
Perfect. Well, Carl it is.
I agree.
Carl it is. Hey-oh. Perfect. And so we're done now. That is everything. That is Carl. Carl, you get the green Tauros badge roll. So if you guys want to tune into Puckle next week, you can send an email in to puclpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think of Pokemon Go's effect on Pokemon. We would like to know that. Send that in to puclpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to get more Puckly goodness throughout your week, you could do so in a variety of ways. One, you could just follow us on social media. I'm trying to get better about using those. Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit, all those are on puclpodcast.com. If you want to come and talk with us during the week, we have plenty of discussion that's probably more in depth about this. We'll go for hours about HMs there instead of just 10 minutes here. And that is at Discord. The link to the show, to the invite is in the description down below and also on our website on the chat page.
And by the way, Carl, that's where you need to go. You need to go to our Discord in order to get that role.
Mm-hmm.
So come to the Discord, come chat with us. We love the email, but we love to chat with you in our Discord too.
And if you haven't already come to the Discord, that's where we're doing our Summer League, where you can come and challenge gym leaders, which we've decided for their badges. It's a great way to learn competitive Pokemon. We have a lot of fun there. If you want to just
all three of us are gym leaders.
Yeah, actually, that's true. There's 10 gym leaders. You only need 8 badges to get to the Tournament of Champions. Also, if you get into the tournament and you win the tournament, you win a 2DS XL, which is still going to be relevant until 2019. So remember that. It's a 2DS XL. That's like a $150 system. Like, think about that. You can win that just by playing Pokemon on the internet for free. Just throwing that out there. You can win it. It's worth it. And if you want to do other things with us, like maybe meet us in person, you could do so by coming to PuckleCon, which is July 21st and 22nd in Dayton, Ohio, at the Dayton Convention Center, room 306. I still have a few things to finalize for that, but we finally paid for the room. We've paid for everything. We're just about ready to go. There's a few other things that we have to do. We have to give them the room set up and stuff this week, but I'm getting pretty close. It's pretty close. It's only like 6 weeks away or something like that now, right? And it's going to be pretty hype. So if you want to come battle some Pokemon, we're going to have some prizes. The schedule is on the website as well. You can go find the schedule right now and look at the things we have going on. We have side events going on, including a Pokemon Stadium 2 minigame tournament, if you want to get in on that. So definitely check that out. I think that's pretty much it. You should also go to twitch.tv/thepuclpodcast. Catch me and Jushiro playing various Pokemon games on there. There also may or may not be a PuckleCon stream that you can catch while you're there. If you're not able to attend PuckleCon, it'll be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to just hopefully being able to share that with you guys in some way. And if you want to support the show either monetarily, or well, not either monetarily, but you can do so monetarily by 1, subscribing to us on Twitch. 2, you can check out our TeePublic store, link in the description down below. We can buy a variety of awesome t-shirts. And you could also go ahead and more directly support us by going to patreon.com/puclpodcast. We really appreciate all the support of our patrons. And I'm looking forward to doing a live show with you guys here in the next week or so. All right, that is going to be it. I guess I am Trainer Thatch.
I am Professor Snag.
And I am Lynian, but signing out.
And here in the Lavender Town Radio Tower, it's closing time.
It's closing time in Lavender Town. Time to say our goodbyes. It's closing time. Farewell, my friends. I'll catch you on the flip side.
As always, we would like to thank our patrons for making the show possible. So thank you to Declan, Duly Noted, 10 Little Men, V for Viking, Andrea, The Fluffiest Whimsicott, Shamu, Mongo87, Snag, Dexio, Jushiro, Rotted Mushroom, Bocephus, Alvarin, Seth Vilo, Minor Manetric, Claude9, Chris, John, R. Sigma, Doc McStuffles, Nathan, The Golden Clef Key, Uncle Lashawat, Trevor, TJ, Shambles, Birdkeeper Cobra, Daniel, Traby, Greg, Alec, Mikey, Ozzy, Jedi DJ, Bob, Sparky, Brian, Orange Avenger, Thomas, Block, Dennis, Echo, Anime Gravy, Travis, Mark, Inferno235, and the Real EV for supporting the show. We are going to be doing a live podcast with you guys here on June 30th, so mark your calendars for that one, guys. We'll be doing a live podcast that morning. More details to come at patreon.com. Of course, if you want your name listed at the end of the show, you can go ahead and go to patreon.com and also get access to a bunch of other perks. It's going to be great. So I will catch you guys on the flip-flop.